Today we're going to talk about the knit stitch and how to do it. First thing we're going to do is we're going to define what it is. This, which is typically what people think is knitting, sort of is. It's called stockinette. It's knit on the front side, purl on the back side, so it's smooth. The other option is garter stitch, which is bumpy on both sides because you knit on both sides. So when you do this, you're going to notice that there's a lot more rows when you knit garter than there are stockinette. We're going to count them really quick. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, 30, 32, 34, 36, 38, 42, 44, 46. 46 rows in 4.5 inches. When we look at the stockinette, you're going to find the bottom of a V, which is the bottom of a stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33. So 33 rows in garter equal about 46 rows in garter. Because this is so stretchy, and this is not so stretchy, the names of these two stitches came from actually stockings or socks. They used to make socks. The smooth side is stockinette, so stockinette, like stocking. And the top was made with garter. This has ribbing, but it used to be made with garter stitch. And they would be sort of like this. And you have this stretchy top that helped hold your socks up. We'll put that aside now. So let's talk about knitting. I use double points for demonstrations. I think it's a little easier to handle, keep the project kind of small. The stitches move easily along this needle. And you'll look at them and they look like they're at a tiny bit of an angle. This would be straight. The reason they're at an angle is because the yarn and the stitches are all connected to each other, sort of like, I don't know, like ribbon candy. They sort of do this little, they do this little rib, this little movement like that across the row. So there's a front leg of the stitch and the back leg of the stitch. As you look at the end of the needle, you'll see the stitch goes over the needle. The front leg is connected to the ball. The back leg is connected to the rest of the work. If you knit into the wrong leg of a stitch, your knitting will be bound up and not very stretchy, so you want to be sure that you're knitting into the correct leg of the stitch. Stitches could be possibly on your needle in the wrong way if you pick them up and put them on your needle after you drop them. So you should be aware of which one is the front and which is the back. Now when you knit, you take your needle, you go behind the front leg, under, and just through that half of that loop. You put your working needle to the back of the needle with holding your stitches. You wrap your yarn counterclockwise around the needle and through the crack. Pull your needle under, up, and push it off the needle. Let's try it again. Under, around, under the needle, through and up. Needle goes under, your yarn goes around, needle goes under, through, and up. So when you're knitting, you need to hold your project not super loosely, but not with a tight grip, like you would hold something precious that you didn't want to break or pinch tightly. What that does is it allows your stitches to move freely. When you hold your knitting or your needles really tightly, you fight. See how nothing is moving when I'm being very tight? You have to let your stitches move along. Nothing bad is going to happen if they fall off a needle. That can always be repaired. If you're too tight, it makes it not a fun thing to do. When you come to the end of a needle, end of a row, you'll notice that the last stitch you worked is a little bit loose. It's because when you're knitting, this last stitch would have been way over here. Doesn't have anything connected to it to tighten it up. So it's always going to be a little bit loose when you get over there. When you knit your next row across, it will fall into line and become very, very even, because there is only so much yarn that's in that stitch. It just happens to be moved around a little bit when you get to the end of a row. That being said, some new knitters will put their yarn over their needle. Now you have 2 stitches, and that's not correct. You want to put your yarn under your needle to have 1 stitch, and you'll see how on that needle you have 1, or over, incorrect, there's 2. So you want to always go under. Another little trick is that you need to slow your yarn down so that your stitches stay consistent. If you drop your yarn every time, there's no way for your stitches to have any kind of consistency. So see how loose those stitches are and how your needles will fall out if you do that. So you don't really want to do that. Let's just pull these back. Put them back on the needle, being mindful of which leg is in the front. Whoops. And let's see how we can slow down our yarn. I usually leave a needle in, held at the position to knit before I put my needles down. Take your little pinky, wrap it around that needle, and then over your forefinger. See how this slides your yarn is a little bit taut. So around your stitch, over and through, in, around, under and through, in, around, under and through. Having some tension on your yarn will help you create perfect stitches. Another little rookie mistake that I like to point out is new knitters often do this to their work. That stretches all your stitches out and gives you a hole in the middle of your garment. You do not want to do that. You want to keep your tips crossed or your needles together as much as possible. You also don't want to stop in the middle of a row unless the house is on fire or something terrible is happening, because sometimes as a new knitter you'll pick up your needles and go in the wrong direction, and that's a problem. So here you go. Here's a little swatch with a knit stitch, and thank you so much for watching.